Hi everyone, welcome to Life Inspirations with Rue and Ras. We have decided to do a whole series on living life intentionally. We just had a moment of just reviewing our lives and how making intentional moves, intentional decisions has been a big part of our lives from when we started dating to when we got married, having kids, how we do marriage. We always try our best to be very intentional, and we really feel like the key to success, of course God is in the center, but being intentional, because things don't just happen on their own, but being intentional allows you, gives you the highest chance for success. So it's going to be a series. We're going to be sharing from dating all the way out. So yeah, just stick with us. So this is our first video, and Russell is going to share on how intentionality during dating.
Yeah. So I think I'll start by saying that it's more of a disclaimer that the idea of intentionality was never my idea. It was more of a God idea. And it started somewhere around 2000 and maybe end of 2010, 2011. I had a good relationship with God, but during my varsity time, I think there was a lot of godlessness that happened there, and I moved away from God. And why I say it was a good idea is because I just woke up one day and I felt that this was not the way I was supposed to be living. This was not what God had set apart for me. And what was sort of my anchor verse during that time was Jeremiah 1 verse 1, where God says, I knew you before you were formed, I set you apart before you were formed in your mother's womb. And I just felt like what I was going through was not what God intended for me. And for me, I think what's been the key for intentional living, the first thing that I realized was obedience. In that moment when I felt this emptiness, when I felt this gap that was in my life, and I probably made a cry to God, and God said do something, and I blindly did it. And for me, the do something was I had a couple of friends that I had in varsity. So when I speak of post varsity, I hadn't seen these guys maybe 3-4 years, but they were people that were very strong in God. They walked a better walk with God than what I did. And God just said, reach out to one of these guys. And I did it. And I found him at a point in his life where he was dating, right? He had this beautiful fiancée of his, and they're now married. They've got 2 beautiful kids. And I just looked at them and I was like, wow, this is nice. If I could have something like that, I'd be happy. And I then took that move to associate with people like that, just build myself up, rebuild myself up. And so I spent a lot of time with these guys, and we were doing things that back in varsity I would find not cool. Like, instead of going out on Fridays, we would meet up and share the word. And if I'd spoken to myself during my varsity days and said I would meet up guys on a Friday and talk about God and share verses and pray and have Holy Communion where you're drinking red juice and pieces of bread, I would have told you that you're lying. But for me, it was that obedience that then opened up this phase that I started walking in. And I had also dated quite a lot. So I decided to stop, find myself, first find God, find myself, find who I am. And I keep going back to this verse, Jeremiah 1 verse 5, because it says, before you were born, I set you apart. So it means God set me apart, but also in the setting apart, God also set apart someone for me, right? So in my searching and doing all of these things, I then came up with what I thought at the time was my steps to intentionally date. And the first thing that I did there was seek God, read His Word, seek God about who I am in Christ, seek God about He is the originator of marriage. He's the one who created marriage. So I sought the Word of God to say, what is marriage about? What is a partner supposed to be like? And I obviously surrounded myself with like-minded people. I read about marriage books, so I'm a big reader, and I started reading about books. And this was the time also where YouTube was starting to be a big thing. I found myself listening to sermons, listening to messages, going on like some of, for example, like Bishop Jakes' Potter's House. He had these men's conferences that it had. I'll read through all of that stuff. And somewhere in my reading, I cannot pinpoint where I found this. I found this principle of non-negotiables. So from that point, I set apart what were my non-negotiables in a person that I was going to date. And second disclaimer, those non-negotiables were not physical. They had nothing to do with appearance. They had everything to do with how the person is, their relationship with God. Do they love God? Do they know God? Because that's the path that I decided to walk, right? And the second thing that is very, very important to me is family. And I needed to know what is that person's relationship with their parents. What is that person's relationship with their siblings? Because once you get into marriage, you're now married to that entire family. So if you get in and people don't talk to each other or people fight, believe you me, you're marrying into exactly that. So for me, that was very key. The other thing was, do they want to have a family? Because I grew up with a mother and a father, with very loving siblings, and the institution of marriage is something that I hold very dearly. But over and above that, the family and the role of the family is something that is very important to me. So that was one of the things that I looked at. And I think lastly was career. I'm quite career focused. Is the person a career focused person? So I then created that list, and I went on about performing my due diligence. And some of it was brutal, right? Because then you would find someone, they've got 1, 2, and 3, but they will tell you, I don't talk to my mother. And I'm like, I love mothers. I love both my mother-in-law, I love my mother. How would I handle that, right? So for me, I'll just go back to the fact that the intentionality came from, for me, it was a good idea. It wasn't mine. I can never lay claim to it.
Yeah.
But what I can lay claim to is then the obedience. Because once God shows you a path to go, He'll expect you to be obedient and follow whatever that is asked you to do. So yeah, in a nutshell, I think that was my intentionality into dating. And I think 12 or 13 months after I had set myself apart and decided I needed to know myself, I needed to get back to knowing God, was the first date that I had with you. And the ticks happened, and here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that was good, and it's kind of cool to hear intentionality, like how you prepared for dating, intentionality coming from a guy perspective, because I think it requires so much more discipline.
Yes, it does.
For a guy,
it does.
You know, in preparing yourself for marriage, and I don't think it's a very popular idea, especially for guys, to actually intentionally say, I don't know, like when you guys speak, like there's very few circles where guys actually say, okay, I'm intentionally preparing myself to date.
Yeah.
So
But I think we will just be looking at this topic and trying to make things too deep. If you move from marriage and you say, I intentionally want to work out and exercise, right? You have to make the decision to be disciplined in how you eat, the time you sleep, the people you hang around with, right? Because you're going to be watching what you eat, you're going to be watching what you do. And I just think that it's something that we as guys are good at doing on many other things, but not when it comes to marriage.
Yeah.
And I might be generalizing, right? And,
Yeah.
and piggybacking off of what you said. But I think that a lot of the guys just decide not to open up to this level of discipline when it comes to marriage. And for me, that's what I find a bit difficult, because in me seeking what marriage is about, I realized that this is like it's once I'm in, right? So I needed to make the right due diligence check to make sure that the person that I'm going to end up with, one, I chose, and number two, I've done whatever checks that I think are enough to make me comfortable to make that lifelong decision that this is the person I'm going to stay with. It's funny, we can do a due diligence on what car to buy, on what neighborhood to stay in, on which gym to go to, on what protein shake to take, on what endurance drink that doesn't have a lot of carbs. But when it's something that's so lifelong, like marriage, you just gonna go off the cuff. So yeah, I think for me, I just chose the path of saying, I'm taking this very seriously, the same way I would something that is very serious and long term. The same due diligence that I need to put in it is the same due diligence that I need to put into finding a partner.
Okay.
And it's worked so far.
It has worked so far, and you're very good about being intentional and about following through. So I think that was a good, it was good for you to start implementing it then. Because as the head of the house, you're really good at following through something when you decide that we're intentionally going to do A, B, C, and D as a house. You've really done that well, so you're welcome. Yeah, so I think that's all we have for this first video in our series. We'll see you next time.
Cool.